Hey guys, here Jason. It's the Thursday night edition of In the Simpademic. It's my Friday night because I'm going to be off of work tomorrow. The edition could drop any time during the day tomorrow because I do not record these on my work hours. So I do need to clarify one thing from the previous episode. I do post my gym pictures sometimes on social media, but they're usually in the form of selfies, and that's not what I'm referring to when I'm talking about women filming men in the gym and calling them creeps. I mean, people take selfies in our gym all the time, and they basically don't include anybody else in them unless they're doing it kind of as a group, as an agreed to group photo. So this is not what I'm dealing with. This is not what I'm addressing on that one. But speaking of creeps, I want to address kind of the oversized dragon in the room there, in here. If you look at a lot of the faceless manosphere channels, you would swear up and down that all men are good guys and that the creep accusations are always false. Well, I'm here to bring a point up that I know is also true. And the creep accusations would not stick if there weren't the fact that there are actually real creeps out there. And I have seen men, engage in creepy behavior. I will also add that simp behavior can morph into creep behavior pretty easily. It's not that much of a stretch if you think about it. And, men who lavish all this attention on women, if they don't reciprocate back, they lavish unwarranted attention. They simp for these women. If it doesn't get reestablished, if it doesn't establish a connection or a reciprocation, it can become. It can. These men can indeed morph into being creeps, or even worse, stalkers. And so, to that extent, I will say yes, there are men who are creeps, and there are definite patterns of behavior in this particular case of men being creepy. One giant one is, if you tell them no, it should mean no. And if they it's one thing to come back and maybe ask a second time somewhere, after a few weeks or whatever. But if it's a constant pattern, and if it's like daily or even weekly, if it's just consistent persistence, and pushing it and just asking, the woman out over and over again, then that's creepy, or following them behind, kind of like shadowing them and following them like a lost puppy dog. You know the look. That's also really creepy, and that's the type of creepiness that anybody can do to anybody. But if it's a man doing it to a woman, it can absolutely be restraining order material. And so, we have men who follow, or if they constantly text, if they get the phone number from the girl to begin with, and if they just constantly nonstop text, that's creepy behavior too. And so I'm here to say that we do have these men out here. We wouldn't have false accusations of men doing much less things as being creepy if it weren't for the fact that there are real creeps out there to begin with. And so to that extent, if you simp after a woman, stop, get help, message me if you need to. I'm always available to help on this one because I have embraced more of a stoic mentality in this regard. And I'm in the position right now where I don't chase, because as I've said before, if you're chasing, it's because they're running. Don't chase something that doesn't that is running because they don't want to be caught. And men who do things that break that boundary are creeps. And so I don't chase, I don't pursue anymore. If it happens, it's awesome. If it doesn't, then I live my life out, the rest of my life out, in a similar fashion as the Apostle Paul, which in the Christian faith is a pretty high honor. And so I'm going to take that for what it is. And so what happens, and that's a true stoic mentality, is that if you trust that whatever happens, then you will not fall into the simp trap. You will not become a creep. You will not put a woman above you on a pedestal. This is what I will just constantly, that's a hill. That's a hill I will die on. Just don't push things that are not happening naturally. And that's how we get Simpson. That's how those men go further and become creeps. So that is my rant for today. Enjoy your Thursday night, everyone. Get ready for the weekend. Although for me, my weekend is already here. But if that's not you, have yourselves a great Friday, and we will see you next time. Peace out, homies.